Ryan Carson is the founder of some of the biggest tech conferences in the world, including the Future of Web Apps. But now he's got a new startup called Treehouse, which is offering online training for web developers and graphic designers. Let's talk to him. All right, so let's start at the beginning. I'm curious, you have a crazy history of jumping around and moving different places and being all over the place. Where did you actually grow up, though?
So, grew up in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Born and raised, and actually it's weird because I spent most of my time in Colorado, and then went to Colorado State, sort of normal. I didn't even apply anywhere else. I kind of feel like my early years I wasn't ambitious or something. You know, I'll just apply to one school.
So you just applied to one school.
Yeah.
Did you know you wanted to do computers or?
No. So I did Pascal in high school.
Okay.
And I didn't.
That wasn't a course they taught, though, right?
It was weird. It was kind of. And I didn't even know what programming was. You know, it was the type of thing where I don't even know why I took the course, you know, but apparently I got in and started writing code. I'm like, this is amazing. Like you can tell the computer what to do.
I know, I thought the same thing when I was doing that.
I know, it was almost magical, you know, and we made this like airline seating diagram, you know, which is crazy shit back then. And
that is crazy.
Yeah, I know.
It could have been like orbits or something like that.
Oh, damn it. And then that was like 1994.
Wow.
So I realized this is fun, like, and I think I can do it. And then, but bizarrely, I went to Colorado State and I studied chemistry.
No way, I had no idea.
Yeah, but I only did it for about 2 months and I switched majors. So, and I don't know about you when you chose computer science, but the choice was really business information systems, which is the businessy version of computer science,
right?
Or computer science. And whether it was naive or not, I thought, listen, I can always teach myself business, but I can't, you know, learn how to code necessarily.
Right.
And which you can, but so I went computer science basically.
And then right out of school, did you start coding, like taking coding jobs? Or?
No, so I graduated 2000 at the height of the bubble, and all my friends were basically, you know, going to Sun or who was big back then, Sun or Microsoft, and they were getting paid crazy money.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, you know, sort of back then. I mean, this was what 10, 11 years ago. So back then, a $50K salary was pretty good.
Oh yeah.
And there were signing bonuses of BMWs and stuff, you know.
That's crazy.
But I thought I could do that, or I could always come back and do that. It sort of felt like it was the predictable route, you know.
And so you're still in Colorado at the time? Okay.
Well, I graduated, so from Colorado State graduated.
So you're like, I'm not moving, I'm not going out to San Francisco, I'm not going to the Bay Area.
No, I was just, you know, I thought I'll get, but then it hit me like, I could see my life just kind of, my path before me. I thought, there's no adventure, what if I just stay in Colorado forever? I mean, you know, and I also felt like my worldview was limited by the fact I had never lived anywhere else. You know, we've talked about a little of this before, but I grew up in a Christian home and, you know, was pretty serious about that stuff. And then I just thought, you know what, there's stuff I don't know. And I'm worried that maybe, you know, both my career and my worldview is limited somehow. So I'm just gonna move somewhere crazy.
Yeah, we were both, that's exactly what happened to me. We were both in Christian homes growing up, and it's crazy how, like, I don't know if it's necessarily the Christian aspect of it, but there's something about, like, my family never really traveled or anything like that. I was like, it was very much, it would have been fine to just stay in that little shell, you know?
Yeah, well, and I felt the same way. I was like, man, I didn't think there was anything wrong with my life, but I just thought, you know, I bet there's a lot of stuff I don't understand.
Yeah.
And I have a degree, I can always get a job. And, you know, I wasn't worried about getting a job right away. So I basically picked somewhere where they speak English and thought, I'll just move to England. And that was crazy because I literally knew nobody. You know,
How did you even like figure out how to get a visa? I mean, it wasn't just...
Well, so the nice thing is that if you, and I don't know if they do this anymore, but you get this little blue card called a BUNAC visa. And if you have a degree, you can basically go work in, I think, Australia or the UK and do any job you want. And that's only for, I think it's only for a year or 6 months. So it's basically a free card. You just go over and show it to me when you start working.
That's pretty awesome.
It's good. I mean,
so you were serving coffee at first?
No, so I got a job as a cold fusion developer.
Nice.
Yeah.
I didn't know you knew cold fusion.
Well, I didn't really know it.
There's still like some sites in Cold Fusion.
No, I think isn't what site actually
There's
runs
some
Cold
big
Fusion?
site that was in Cold Fusion. Funny, Dave's not here. He would know.
no.
I think MySpace was running in Cold Fusion. Dave, was MySpace in Cold Fusion? Long time. Briefly, okay.
Right.
I knew it was
for a
something
minute.
like that.
Yeah. And so basically I got a job as a developer and they're like, do you know Cold Fusion? And I was like, if I know C++, I can probably write Cold
Right.
Fusion. And the web was just taking off. I mean, I remember literally seeing Google for the first time while I was at that job. And just, worked a couple web dev jobs and stayed in the UK. And then I met my now wife over there and basically just stayed. So I've been in the UK since then.
That American accents are hot?
No, they think they sound nasally. Sorry to crush that for you.
No, but there's a couple countries I've heard about where, like, if you come in there as an American, they're like, oh,
nice.
I
think they could think it was kind of manly, but I think for guys maybe. But sorry, women, if you're watching, they do not find women with an American accent sexy.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah.
I always wondered about that.
Yeah,
Anyway,
it's not gonna happen.
So you met her, and you were still doing this job. You said, okay, I'm going to stay in.
Well, she was the reason I stayed. I think I was going to come back.
Right.
But the key to everything I've done was this thing I did called BD40, or by designers for designers. And back when I was, didn't have kids, didn't really have a girlfriend because I wasn't seeing Jill then. I had so much time. You could sort of do whatever you want, over the weekends, at nights.
Right.
And a friend and I decided to basically get a bunch of web designers together and go to a bar and project stuff on the wall and talk about web design.
And this was in London?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we started it, and it was fairly underground, and we called it the Creative Fight Club, because what you could do is you could run a BD40 event in your own city, and we would put it on our site. So it was kind of, I don't know if you remember from the Fight Club, the film, but the idea was all the fight clubs were self-organizing.
Right, totally.
Right? And they would just happen. And that was similar to what we do, and they would pop up all over the world. And these events, I think they happened in something crazy. There was like 60 of them over 17 different cities in 8 different countries. But my friend and I were at the middle of it. So what it did is it connected us. Mm-hmm. And I talked a little bit about this on This Week in Startups, but the thing that I did right, which I didn't know I was doing, was meeting people and establishing good friendships. Mm-hmm. So that when it came time to launch something, I already had great relationships, and I wasn't sort of starting cold.
Right. And so you didn't even know, you had no plans. It wasn't like you were going there meeting these people with a master plan of eventually launching a huge conference enterprise.
Yeah, there was nothing. I mean, it was literally just, let's do this for fun. I think I was naive or something. I mean, I didn't want to make money out of it. I had no plans. And that was at the beginning of really what we think of as the web. So I met people now that, that are just changing the world. I mean, that's how we became friends, and how I met, Ev at Twitter and Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook. And, those things happened because in the early days, I just basically was passionate about it and meeting people. And
then how did you take that and eventually move it into a real conference business? And at what point did you decide to make the leap from, someone else paying you to starting your own thing?
So I've always been a web person really at heart. So I was a web developer, and then I built my first, so I was a web developer for a design studio. Mm-hmm. And I think I realized that I was a bad employee, basically. I always thought that our bosses got paid too much, and thought I could do this. This is ridiculous. And at that point, I was like, I'm just going to do my own thing. And so when Jill and I got married, I decided I'm going to start my own company. And so that's when we started Carson.
Was she pretty supportive of this? Was she like, yeah, do it?
I think probably not, but but I think she acted like it. She's like, you can do it, but I think she was thinking, what are you doing?
Was that a big hurdle for you, to get the backing of your significant other?
It was hard, but thankfully she had a good paying job, so she basically paid the mortgage for a while.
Nice.
I know.
Sugar mama.
I know, it was great. So she sort of covered the mortgage while I was trying to figure out how to make money. And I built my first product, and it was basically called Drop Send, and it was a precursor to you send it, or even Dropbox.
Dude, I use DropSend.
Yeah, that's right.
I remember. I remember when you first told me that you created that. I was like, holy shit! I was like all shocked and excited.
A lot of people.
Oh, it's our doorbell. So keep going.
So a lot of people have used DropSend bizarrely, and it was early enough. But the problem is I didn't have the product vision to turn it into a Dropbox or a YouSend It. It was a good tool for sending large files, but it was my first real product, and it was profitable and it was growing. And I think while that was happening, we started doing these events, and the events were really just because I had seen the value of getting people together with by designers for designers, and I did some mental math, and I was like, we can make some money out of doing workshops or conferences, but I was more interested in getting people together in the UK to get people excited about the about web design and web development, because everybody was talking about Silicon Valley. You got to be in Silicon Valley. It's important to be over here, and I was frustrated by that. And I thought, no, you don't. Like, I want to show people in the UK that we can build stuff here. And so that's why we did the first Future Web Apps. We didn't want to make money out of it. It wasn't this big plan to do a
Did
conference business.
Did I come to the first Future Web Apps or no?
No, we met at Future Web Apps San Francisco, which was the second one.
Okay.
But the main thing that I would, anyone who's watching this, I would encourage them to think about is if you want to be at the center of an industry, no matter what it is, say that you're building a product for doctors, throw a conference. Because immediately what happens is you become the connector, like you become the person that's at the middle of that. And even if you don't have any real credibility because you're new, it instantly builds credibility. It just being on stage and sort of talking and introducing people, it's strange. People automatically look at you and think, you must know what you're doing. So it's kind of this weird hack. And I didn't do that on purpose. I was like, haha, if I get on stage,
Right.
But it definitely happened.
Crazy. So how do you go about, let's just talk about throwing your first Future Web Apps. I'm thinking in my head, if I had to do something like that right now, how would I go about doing it? And I get I'd figure out a venue and all that stuff. That all makes sense to me, putting together the website, selling tickets, seems pretty straightforward now. How do you lock down high quality speakers?
Well, so again, that was, I didn't realize it, but the thing I did right was doing by designers for designers. Because when we were doing
So you had a handful of people that were just, at that point, were pretty well known.
Well, yeah, and they knew me because, I had really put in my time and effort. I had done my time, proving that I was passionate about the web, because we were flying around the world doing these BD40 events and doing it simply because we were passionate about it. And I think that people have a good BS indicator. They have a good sort of ability to know whether or not you're BSing or if you're serious or if you're passionate. So I established credibility back by doing BD40. And when it came time to get big name speakers for our events, I could send an email and someone would reply to it. And I think that's kind of the key is, so we got David Hennemar Hansen and the creator of Ruby on Rails and Joshua Schachter to speak at the first FOA. And I think just because he had just sold Delicious, and I think people are like, whoa, this is a serious event. I mean, and we instantly sold out, I think 800 tickets. And then weirdly, then it became a business. Let's do conferences. Let's make a business out of it.
And you hadn't intended that.
No, not
really. That was just a one-off thing you wanted to do at that point. Or?
Yeah, it was more about connecting, and I enjoyed that, and I knew it would yield sort of benefits at some point. But I think actually, I got sucked into it, and looking back, I'm thankful that we did the conferences. I mean, it's how we became friends. It's how I've made amazing, valuable connections. But I wanted to get back into web product. I just feel like that's where my heart is and what I'm really passionate about. So we did the conference business for basically, it's crazy to think about. I think about 7 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And this is while, Facebook was being created and Twitter came out and Dig was going strong, and all these things were happening. But I'm glad we did it, and it is an amazing enabler if you're running and you don't need to make profit from conferences, right? If you just want to be at the middle of stuff and establish your credibility, just barely break even. Don't try to get a ton of sponsors. I think that's the key to making that work.
So tell me, fast forward to where you are today in this new venture you decided to take on here, just announced not too long ago. It's actually kind of not even a pivot, but you're taking existing property that you launched and then renaming it, rebranding it, and relaunching it, right?
Yep. So while we're doing our conferences, I realized that there's a big need for training, but in a more consistent, regular manner. So you can go to a conference and it's exciting, but you're not really going to learn, concrete skills that you can then sit down at your machine and use. You kind of get ideas or you connect with people, but when it comes to learning HTML5 or messing around with Node, you're not really going to get that at a conference. So we thought, let's launch a training, service like that, and probably video is the right way to do that. So I literally did a mock-up of the homepage of this idea, and it was showing a video, and then had a tagline, learn web design and web development, and a sign-up button. And then I tweeted out and I said, hey, if you're a web designer, web developer, DM me because I want to get your feedback on the idea and I want to see if you'd pay for it. So I got a ton of responses, and then I emailed them a link to a PNG, which was basically the homepage, and I said, what is this and would you pay for it? And it was 100% of the people were like, I would pay for that. And so I'd email back, well, how much would you pay? And they're like, $10 or $50 or but it was a really cool way of validating the product.
Awesome, without even having to go out and build
nothing.
it or anything. Yeah.
So literally just used Balsamiq to mock it up, tweeted, and validated the product. And so at that point I was like, okay, let's do this. And used money from the conference business to bootstrap it. So it took us, I'd say probably took us about 150 grand, all in to bootstrap it. And which made our events company wildly unprofitable, but it was a good way to do that. And the hard thing was, what was the name, and what do we launch it of? Is it Carsonified training? Is it Think Vitamin training? Is it a new name? And in the end, we decided, let's call it Think Vitamin Membership, because thinkvitamin.com has a ton of traction. And
that was your site that you created that was a blog for design.
Exactly. Yeah, it was basically a resource for web designers and developers. We didn't make any money off thinkvitamin.com. And that's another thing that I've learned that we happen to do right, but I didn't mean to do, is establishing a good content site that its goal isn't monetization, it's more marketing through thought leadership. That was key. And I'm so thankful we did that, because that takes years to build up a good, trusted resource. So we called it Think Vitamin Membership, and instantly made a lot of money out of it. I mean, it was, we built it in 2 months.
Did you build it at a studio to shoot these videos, or how did you go about doing that?
So we basically hired 2 guys full time, and I basically said, well, we're gonna try this for 3 months, and if it doesn't work, then you don't have a job. But if it does, then we'll do it. And our first setup was pretty ghetto. I mean, it was a white sheet, a couple lights, and a camera, and we
kind of like what we're doing here right now.
No, this is actually much more professional than what we were doing. I mean, we've got how many cameras here and some lights. But it looked good enough that it was way better than anything else. And so it was fun. It just worked. And I think in the first day we did like $3,000 in revenue, and this is just from tweeting and posting on Think Vitamin.
So tell me how you go about getting experts in the field to talk about these technologies, right? Because you're dealing with some pretty,
pretty crazy technical stuff.
Super technical, super, like, in a lot of cases, bleeding edge stuff that not many people know about even.
Well, so we managed to find a guy named Nick Pettit and Jim Hoskins, and they happened to be doing a show called DocType. And DocType was basically a weekly show they did for fun, where they talked about latest stuff in the web. And I was like, okay, they're good on camera, and they know what they're talking about. I wonder if they'll work for us. and they kind of are a package. So there's 2 of them, and basically just sent them an email, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, we'd love to work with you."
Awesome.
So it was a little bit of luck.
Yeah.
Like anything. I mean, we happened to pick the right guys, and they were based in Orlando, and that's why we now have an office there. We just sort of built up momentum. But so the thing that I think is amazing that happened with Think About It membership is that we charged from day one. You know, it's $25 or $49 a month. So we made real revenue from day one, and we launched it just off the back of one of our sites, and very quickly validated the idea. I think it was. I didn't mean for it to be a lean startup, sort of Eric Ries style, but it was.
So you got this out there. People are paying for it. You know, it's growing. Do you feel like this is, you created this partially because our current education system really can't deal with like modern technologies?
Definitely. I mean, we both study computer science, right? And we know, that getting a university degree to do web stuff is just, it's unworkable. You know, and it's cost you at least 40 grand. It's probably way more now. 10 years on, and you end up learning Java or C++ or or Dart or whatever, and then you walk out and it's totally out of date. So I knew that, if you want to be a web professional, there's no good way to do that right now.
Yeah.
And it's not agile, it's not up to date.
Yeah, it seems like
affordable.
There's something new that comes out, you can get this online and in a class like within weeks, right?
Oh yeah, or days even. I mean, so if there's something brand new like Dart, Google just announced a new language, and we could probably get out a Dart Foundations course in probably 2 weeks, and then keep it up to date.
Yeah, that's the big one actually. Because oftentimes you look at stuff and it's it's already several versions behind.
Right. Right.
So is your goal to? I mean, will you disrupt traditional education in the tech sector?
I hope so, man. So we decided to do a big change though and rebrand the product. So I decided to sell our events company, and so that was acquired this year. And
congrats.
Thanks. Yeah, that was the second business I've sold, and each time you do it, you learn more. But I knew that it was time to double down and really focus on what we had built. Think About It membership was growing fast. It was doing over $1 million, a year in run rate with zero marketing, and we were, very profitable. I thought this is really working, and now that I have time to do it, I thought, okay, what are we going to do? And the more we actually focus on the product, we realize this isn't just about disrupting education. This is actually about affecting the worldwide economy in a major way. And the reason why is because millions of people are capable of becoming programmers, but they cannot afford to learn. And so there's just millions of people around the world that would love to be able to do front-end development or basic back-end development, and they just can't learn it. They definitely can't go to university,
right?
And they can't even afford trade school probably,
right? I mean, they can pick up books, but oftentimes it's like,
they're out of date.
The other day, then it's not really structured, and there's no
And they're actually pretty expensive. I mean, a book is what, $30, and so I think.
And I really like the approach that you're doing with Treehouse, because you said this isn't just about watching a video.
Right.
You've coupled it with actual quizzes and ways to unlock like achievements, so you make it more of a.
It's a sort of a multifaceted approach to learning. So after a lot of thought, we decided to rename Think About It membership Treehouse, as you mentioned, and relaunch it with adding a badge layer on top and say, as you learn, you should be able to take quizzes. You should be able to do code challenges to prove that you've learned it. So
that's awesome. So a code challenge will actually present you with like a little box. I'll have to solve the problem there, run the code to prove that it works.
Yep. So like an example, if you want to learn HTML, and the cool thing is we're going to take people that know nothing. And if you literally had never written a line of HTML in your life, and you didn't actually even know what HTML stands for, we could take you from that to the point where you would be a proficient front-end developer.
That's amazing.
I'm so excited.
Dude, I'm excited to use this actually. 'Cause, like, for me, it's most of the stuff that, when I was actually back still writing code or doing HTML and CSS, like it's been a few years.
Yeah, me too.
And it's like I'd have to crack open a book and kind of just like, it's easier for me to go and pay a freelancer or someone or get a friend and be like, come on, man, I'll buy you beer. Just like fix this little CSS issue I'm having,
Yeah,
But
and you won't have to do that anymore.
well, if there was a structured way for me to go in, and the key is I want that foundation. I want that like from knowing nothing all the way up to being super proficient.
Well, and I think it could have a major effect on our economy because there is a huge need for developers and for front-end developers and for back-end developers, and also people doing UX and UI and usability. There's just not enough people to hire. And so I think we could create millions of jobs, get people out of jobs that they didn't like because they're boring and low paid, to basically get to the point where they could get hired by an IBM or these big companies that have huge needs for tech.
Well, the crazy thing is, I think one of your biggest challenges, and I'm excited to see this happen because I think it can definitely be done, is that how do you get over that crazy, stigma about an official degree on your resume,
Yeah, I think that's our biggest challenge.
But I think that when you do code challenges and you do, things that prove that you've solved one, maybe this person has solved one of the top 1% code challenges that you have there, and actually that's a hiring practice. I was talking to a buddy of mine that works at Facebook. We're talking about how they vet new incoming candidates, and one of the things they do is, traditionally, like Google or someone like that would look at a resume. They look, okay, where did you go? Stanford. What's your pedigree? But one of the things that Facebook does is they put these really complex code challenges online.
Really?
Yeah, this super
Nice.
you'd be an amazing developer if you could solve this, right? And then they've had a handful of people solve these problems. And a buddy of mine was telling me that one guy solved it in China. They hadn't had anyone solve this one problem in China. They got him on a plane, flew him out for an interview, met with him. He didn't speak very English that well. Was able to get him a visa, and now he's working at Facebook.
Oh my gosh! Well, that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
I think that we want to build up a system where and I think the Facebooks and the Twitters and the Googles. Yes, they have need. They have they want to hire a ton of folks, but there's millions of jobs, from companies that we don't really think about. Large tech companies that they need to hire people like that, and they would love a system where they could go and say, "Here's a code challenge. If you solve it, it means that you've got a good chance, to get a second interview. At least you're capable to a certain extent." And this is all brand new. There's some people that have done, sort of code evaluation stuff, and it's okay, but there isn't a coherent one-stop solution to say, I just need to learn everything, from, HTML all the way up to Node, in one place without kind of hopping around services.
Is there a way for me to see what my friends are doing?
Yeah.
And I can compare them to what I'm doing?
Yep.
Because you and I got to have some battles.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna win.
Wouldn't that be, well, you can just go and change it back in.
Yeah.
But wouldn't that be fun? No, I think that would be a lot of fun for me to be able to tweet out and say hey, I'm super stoked. I just got to a level 5 in JavaScript or whatever it may be, and
that's what we're gonna do.
It's a sense of pride in a way.
Yeah, and say I actually know what I'm doing, and I'm really excited about it. And it's fun because going from doing DropSend, our first small startup, to doing the events business, and then to think about a membership, which is now becoming Treehouse. This is the first opportunity I think that we have to literally change the world. And it's in a small niche, but it's in a niche that is affecting the entire world.
Oh, for sure.
The stuff we do day to day. You at Milk and all the companies that you're advising. The web digital space is so amazing.
Well, it's so rapidly evolving.
I
can go get my English degree at any standard university, and I'm probably going to be A-okay with the latest stuff,
Yeah.
But I can't go learn Node,
Exactly, and I I don't want to preach too much about the service. Like, I think it's great, and I'm excited about it. But the main thing I've learned that, you know, hopefully people watching the show can get out of this is that you can test your idea quickly, just get some feedback without spending any money. You know, charging from day one. You know, not being afraid. I know that a lot of folks and a lot of ideas won't work for that. You know, they're bigger plays. You know, they need a freemium model. But there's a good argument to be made to just charge money for something from day one. And the third thing is, don't be afraid to completely iterate. Like are completely changing the name of the product and rebuilding it from scratch, even though we're profitable.
Right,
and
totally.
we're making money.
So many people would sit there and say, you know, we have a profitable business. Why change anything?
Yeah.
Like things. Yeah, that's a really important. You know, that's what I respect about Zuckerberg a lot, is he's willing to multiple times a year, like bet.
Like push it hard.
Like bet the friggin' entire company on an idea or a direction. And,
it is pretty, and
it's really ballsy.
It is, and you can.
It's not a PC thing to say.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, yeah, it is impressive, and I think the willingness to step on some toes and be like, it's more important that we push the product than you know. But as long as you communicate, I think Facebook doesn't really communicate as well as it could sometimes. But you know, we've literally changed prices, we've changed the name, and what's worked really well for us is we have a newsletter and all of our customers are on it. And interestingly enough, though, people can cancel on the newsletter when they cancel the service, but a lot of them don't. So we actually have a lot of ex-customers on our newsletter. And what's fascinating about that is I have their first name, which I think is key, and I have their email address. So we use MailChimp, and I always use, you know, the dynamic, you know, insert of fields.
Right.
And I always use their first name. So I'd be like, hey, Kevin, you know, this is what we're doing this week. And
this entire time I thought you were writing to me.
Right. But it's a trick. But actually, I've had people respond to me and say, like, was that email to me?
Right. That's crazy.
Literally. But the point there is, like, we keep in regular contact with our customers, and I write really personal, you know, emails like, hey, I'm at Starbucks and I just want to send you an email.
I have loved that about your style of emails. I've seen that.
Thanks.
Like, it's very chill.
I think it works.
It does work. I use that in the foundation emails too, because like I'm sitting out and like, yo, what's up? A new episode out. Check it out. Hope
that's what people want. Know? They want a human sort of interaction, and so I've really worked hard at keeping in touch with our customers. It's like, if we change prices, change the name, change the structure, change what they're getting for what they paid for, what I've learned is pretty much it will always work as long as you're, number one, offering more value, not less value, and you communicate clearly.
Yeah. So real quick before we wrap things up, I always want to ask our guests, like, give me one of your biggest hurdles you've had to overcome, like maybe managing people,
that's
hiring
funny.
New people.
That's what I was going to say.
Is that what you're
managing people, man.
Talk to me about the ups and downs of that.
So I always hated doing reviews. So
like yearly reviews, like
you've been with us a year. Let's sit down, and and you're both like on. Is he going to want a raise? Am I going to get a raise? How much is it going to be? You know, totally. It's like a black box, and you have no idea what's going to happen. And I think reviews always, they end up, someone's going to feel not quite right about a review.
It's very awkward.
Either
very awkward time.
Yeah, either you as a manager will be angry with your employee, but you don't quite say it, so you come away bitter because you're like, I just wanted to yell at the person, but I kind of chickened out. Or they came in and they were angry, but they didn't want to say anything because there's just too much politics, right?
Right.
So, and I think I finally cracked it. Because basically for the first 7 years of my business, I think it's been pretty bad. It's never worked out very well. And
I hear you, dude. This is one of the hardest things to deal with,
So I read Tony Hsieh's book, Delivering Happiness, and there's a little bit in there where he talks about this thing called the pipeline. And what the pipeline is, and we've adapted it for our business, is you allow people to get regular salary increases at regular intervals, and they know exactly what they need to do to get it. So we have people work for the first 6 months, and then if providing that they're happy and we're happy, and we might actually move that to 3 months, because I think you kind of need to, either say it's working or it's not working after 3 months. But say it's 3 months, then you go, okay, cool, it's working out. Are you happy? And they say yes. And you say, okay. Well, we call them level ups. Well, so we'll say, okay, so for your next level up, let's think of something that the company needs done that you also find interesting. So say here at Milk, you might say to Daniel, your designer, and say, okay, we could really use? We could really use a microsite about, this. But I know you don't really have time to do it because you're full on, But you could say if you'll do it, then, and you have to do it outside of your normal work, you still got to deliver your work, then you will get a raise.
You get to level up.
And you know exactly for how much it's going to be, and they know what they need to do it. And then you, as the business owner, you get the extra value of work that wouldn't have been done.
And they get to pick things that they want to really are passionate about.
Yeah, I mean, you have to agree, and it usually will come from you, and you'll say, what we really need is this, but and I think you'd be good at it.
And do you have like mystery boxes of the amounts of level up you'll get?
No.
That would be amazing.
That would be awesome.
If you had like 3 boxes with like question marks on the outside.
What's in it?
Choose your box.
Right. I'm gonna do that. That's a good idea.
Like, oh man, I got a negative 2% raise. That sucks.
That'd be awesome. But people like to know that they are in control of their career. I mean, they know, because they can do the math. They think, okay, if I get my level up every time, this is how much I can increase my salary by. And it's pretty crazy. I mean, if they get their level ups with us, they can increase their salary by up to 9% a year.
Wow.
Yeah. But the thing that's key is that there's a cap on that. So you may say, okay, you're a front-end developer. I think your salary range is from 80 to 120. So, you have them start at wherever you think they start. But then they can do the math and they know, okay, yeah, I can get up to 120, after this amount of time. And I know that's where I'm at.
That's pretty awesome.
And it's working. Like, we've been doing it for...
I know what you're talking about with Zappos stuff, because he has like a career path that you can take, and you can take courses to get...
right, so we substitute those for projects.
Right.
Because for us, our people are kind of skilled up. Like, they kind of know what they need to know.
Right.
But it's been really, it has been amazing, like, both for me as the owner, just getting amazing, value out of our current staff, and them being really happy about it.
Awesome.
I definitely recommend it. So it's been the hardest thing that I've ever done, and I think we've solved it finally.
Very cool. Well, you'll have to keep us posted next time I have you on about how that went.
Hopefully it won't all backfire. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, dude, I'm excited. Obviously invested in your latest company. Thank you for having me on with that.
Thank you.
I am truly excited about what you're creating.
Thanks.
I think
it's great to be working with you.
Yeah, if anything, I will personally be using it.
I know.
We're
going to get trained up.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely. So, well, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, and we will see you soon.
Sounds good.